Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday Spring Equinox Sacred Reset event. We are just around the corner from the official first day of spring, the equinox, Ostara, if you celebrate the festivals. And I'm excited to keep talking to you today about resetting our energy. If you are tuning in for the first time this week, welcome. We've got the replays from Monday and Tuesday available for you. So you didn't miss out on anything that you can't catch up on. And you can go and watch those at any point in time through the end of the month to be sure that you got all of the goodness and you've got your hands on all of the extra goodies that we put out for you for this event. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and I have been doing this work with all of Team TSE, Team Sisters Enchanted, since 2016, helping witchy women to create these secular spiritual practices that support them so that they can come home to themselves, feel confident in their energy, feel confident in their skin, reclaim their power, reclaim their pleasure and their presence, and create lives that don't just feel like good and that we're grateful for. We all have so much to be grateful for. I mean, man, it is a Wednesday and we're sitting together on YouTube talking magic and energy. We have so much to be grateful for. And we also are allowed to imagine and dream about how much bigger life can be, how much more potent our lives can be, how much deeper can we connect to ourselves, to those around us. Like if we can amplify our connection to all that is, to our own inner power, to the people we love, to the way that we create money and experiences in our lives, to each other, we can change the world by showing up in our fullest, most authentic presence if we let ourselves. All right. In the comments today, we have Team Sisters Enchanted answering all your questions, helping you get where you need to go along the way as I focus on doing what it is that I am here to do, which is give you the information that you are here to get. So in the comments, we've got Patty, we've got Jenna, we've got Naomi, we've got Anna, we have our wayfinders here, and maybe Kiara might be here saying hello, maybe not. Our astrology teacher, Nick, he's probably not here, but I always love to give him a shout out. I am one face of the Sisters Enchanted, and we have an entire teaching team, an entire administrative team that is always here to support you. And I want to give them a quick shout out. They don't know I'm going to do this today, but as we are a collective of women here, I think it's important to acknowledge the strength that women bring to our collective ecosystem. So on our team call yesterday, while we were all here talking, we had one team member whose daughter is taking herself to the labor and delivery hospital with pregnancy complications. She's okay. But one of our team members was having that phone call while here with us. We had another team member yesterday with kids home with fevers. And during our call yesterday, my son is arguing with my husband over a tuna sandwich and telling us he's moving to live with his grandmother. And all of this is happening while we are working together to bring awareness of the power we were all born with. And so I want to give a shout out to Team Sisters Enchanted because you are the magic that makes this all work. So, big hugs to all of you today. And thank you so much for supporting the community and, pat yourselves on the back. You deserve it, because there's always so much going on and any woman here can relate to that experience. We are talking today about tarot and self-trust. We talked a little bit about self-trust yesterday in terms of the chakras, and I'll give us a review of that in a moment. But there are moments in your life, there are times in your life when you are specifically called to trust yourself. Now, as women, we tend to waffle on those moments because we aren't really encouraged to be trusting of our own selves. We touched on this earlier in the week. It wasn't until I think like the late 80s that a woman could get a business bank account on her own or a business loan. In the 70s, I believe that women could get credit cards on their own. We look at financially uncertain times. Which for many of us have been last year with rising prices of things. This year, we're looking at any news story, and I think all we feel is uncertainty. But we look at financially uncertain times and the stories you'll read in articles directed at men, whether it's blogs, magazine articles, like digital newspaper articles. Anybody still reading the newspaper coming to your house? I get one. I get the local paper, and I'm always flipping through it. But the articles written towards men right now are on topics like how to buy stocks now when prices are lower to increase your wealth later. They're really focused on wealth creation. For women, these stories around how to protect your finances, they come in the form of how to feed a family on a budget, how to stretch your grocery budget to last longer. And so while that's not, inherently this thing that I think we all need to lay up at night thinking about, like stay awake at night thinking about, right? I think it is something that should give us some pause in terms of what we've been told, what we've been told subconsciously that we are worthy of holding, that we can be trusted with. We can be trusted to feed a family or a group of people on one chicken breast and a potato, but can we be trusted with putting money in the stock market, right? When the information given to us does not highlight trust for us, we start to second guess ourselves when it comes to big, scary decisions that might change the course of our lives. I'm no stranger to having to battle with self trust. Years and years ago, before I went to grad school to be a teacher, I had a job where I had a good salary, I had a company car. I was $20,000 in credit card debt, though. And I decided very rapidly that I was going to quit that job and become a teacher. Like I said, no money in the bank, $20,000 in credit card debt. Luckily, at that time, I only had myself to answer for. I had to buy back the car I drove in college from my mother. My mother is cutthroat in that way. I had to buy back the car that I drove in college, go on a debt like management payment plan, then went to grad school and took out 40,000 more dollars in debt. Only later to become self employed and do what I'm doing here today. Um, and when I made that decision, I had medical debt and I still had this student loan debt, right? There are these times where we have a door put in front of us. And if we do not trust ourselves to walk through that door, we will not expand. We will stay in the old stories that keep us feeling like I'm just doing the good thing. I'm just doing the right thing. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be seen as a failure. This ties into the word witch, which we use a lot here at the Sisters Enchanted, and the witch wound. So the witch wound is this idea that we hold stories that keep us from being visible. When we think back to the historical European witch trials from hundreds of years ago, you're probably familiar with the Salem witch trials, which was much smaller than the European witch trials and lasted for a much shorter period of time. And in history is really in the grand scope of things, like much more insignificant than the European witch trials. But what we take from that is the fear of visibility, the fear of being on the radar, the fear of being out there, the fear of being witnessed, of being called out, of being othered, of being seen as possibly rocking the boat or stirring the pot. And we carry these wounds with us. In our more modern society, this looks like a school wound, like people not wanting to be embarrassed in front of a classroom. Maybe we've all been there. We all went to school. Times when maybe a teacher said something that embarrassed you, or another student said something in front of the whole class that embarrassed you. We want to protect ourselves, and we will not trust ourselves because we don't want salt poured in those wounds. The witch wound, the society wound, the school wound. We do not want salt poured in there. We also are very much told, as I said, by the world that we live in, that women can be trusted with certain things, but maybe not other things. And that will have us questioning ourselves, where we will start to seek external validation. We will start to look for other people to tell us what we should be doing. We will start to crowdsource our futures, asking all of our girlfriends, all of our relatives, your mom, your aunt, your grandmother, your daughter, your sister, whoever your circle of people is, how many phone calls do you make or texts do you send before you make a decision? We are crowdsourcing the next step rather than turning to our own self-trust. Everybody wants to be more intuitive. I hear it all the time. How can I be more intuitive? I feel like I'm not that intuitive. People love to read tarot. I love to read tarot. We're going to talk about it today. But if we don't have self-trust, it becomes just another distraction mechanism. It becomes another escape tool. And we're really disconnecting ourselves from the presence that's already available to us through self-trust. All right. All right. Let's share the screen here and get in. All right. This is Team TSC. I've been sharing them this week. So if this is your first time seeing them, hello, Team Sisters Enchanted. Like I said, I am just one of the faces here. We've got a whole team of people who make this magic happen each and every day. I've been sharing with you our values this week. One of them is self-trust, but the ones that we really unify around leading with kindness. Remember to be kind with yourself. So many of us are walking around with just like really hating on ourselves each and every day. If you wouldn't say it out loud to a friend, don't say it to yourself. And likewise, remember that in chat comments, we don't have tone of voice, body language, any of that. Always assume somebody means their best, right? Let's not assume people are attacking us. We value time. Time is your most finite resource. People lay awake at night worrying about money, and I understand it. I just got a tax bill that I was a little surprised by. I get it. I'm right there with you. And yet, that is a renewable resource. Your time is not a renewable resource. Let's focus on using this one precious life in ways that make us feel alive. Some of our other values that we circle around: being resourceful and taking personal responsibility. The self-trust really comes in with this resourceful bit too. We are all capable, resourceful people. You are so resourceful. You are wildly intelligent and capable and resourceful. Remind yourself of that. If you have made it however far through life that you are today, and you are here with the capability to listen to this class on a Wednesday, you are wildly resourceful. We also value taking personal responsibility. And this comes back to the energy work that we talked about yesterday, our shadows, always remembering that we really are in charge of our own energy and nobody else is. Here's a story from one of our community members, Brittany, who's just sharing about being in our program, Holistic Witchery. And how she was never always starting projects, never finishing them, and she found confidence in holistic witchery. Remember, this is a free event we're hosting for you, but it's not free for us, and we do offer programming. So our holistic witchery program will open for registration starting tomorrow, which we're really, really excited about. On Monday, we talked about the moon. We talked about feeling how you want to feel, lunar intentions, solar goals. I asked you, how do you want to feel? One of the things we did not dive into on Monday was the 8 lunar phases. I think that you know that there is a new moon, there's a full moon. It takes about 28 or so days for a lunar cycle to complete. One of the things about the moon that is so critical for women to connect to is the idea that the moon is cyclical, right? It's the way we see the moon, rather. Let me correct that. The moon's just doing what it's doing. The sun reflects off the moon, like on the moon, the sun shines, and that's how we see the moon. We're seeing the sun illuminate the moon, right? And we see the phases. So from our perspective here on Earth, the moon looks cyclical. Like it looks like it's going through this cycle in a 28-day period. The earth is doing that also. Right now we're going into spring. The earth is also in this longer cycle throughout a year. Nature is telling us all the time that there is regenerative energy available to us. The moon phases show us that with our emotions, our inner body. It's a constant reminder because it happens over this short time period. The solar year, the seasonal year, it's happening there too. Nature, the earth is regenerative. You, as a woman, also have cycles within you. Wherever you are in your life, maybe you don't see that cycle anymore. Maybe the cycle was never felt like a cycle. I can raise my hand to that. I've got no predictable cycle ever. But the fact of the matter is, we have that cyclical relationship, right? You are a regenerative person. You are a person who can create new energies at any moment in time. And that comes back to that question, how do I want to feel? The whole world around you is going chaotic. Everyone's arguing. How do you want to feel in that moment? You are regenerative. You can create the energy that's going to set the tone for everybody else. How do you want to feel when you respond to the news that you see when you open up your phone? Remember, you are a creator. You are a regenerative being. You can generate the energy that can create power for yourself and stability for the people who feed off of you, right? That's one of the lessons of the moon. The medicine of the moon is in its rhythm. You, my friend, have a rhythm, and it's a regenerative rhythm. Yesterday, we talked about the chakras. We came back to the self, really self sourcing our energy, self care, self pleasure, self trust, self love, self expression, self awareness, self knowing. We talked about all of that yesterday and how it's the stories that we hold within those energies that will allow us to take powerful action to feel the way we want to feel, or that will hold us back. The stories will hold us back. The stories that say we do not have self-trust, the stories that say that you're not worthy of self-pleasure, the stories that tell you that you need to lean on somebody else for your foundational self-care, or you're not worthy because you don't look a certain way, you don't sound a certain way, you don't have a certain kind of education. Those stories need to be reconciled so that you can take action to feel the way you want to feel. The way we approach a spiritual practice here at the Sisters Enchanted is a combination of metaphysics. So we're working with your intuition, we're working with tarot, we're working with astrology, we're working with your inner knowing, the psychic skills, if you will. We're working with rituals, which we're going to do one on Sunday for the spring equinox as a group. If you're going to come to that, it's part of this offer for you. We do all of that. And we tie it in to the very practical elements of the lives we all live. It's one thing to read your tarot cards and do a new moon ritual by yourself on a lazy Saturday morning. And it's another to carry that energy when you walk through the door and your phone rings and it's a phone call you didn't want to receive. It's another thing to carry that energy with you when you go to work and you have to ask your boss for the promotion or the raise and they're telling you the reasons why they can't give it to you. And logically, you're like, that doesn't make sense. Something's not right here. And you've got to stand in your truth and your power. That's what we do. We bridge that gap between the work you do that makes you feel so good and carrying that with you into your world. And that's what we're doing here this week. So today we are talking about tarot. Tarot. I am not going to teach you everything about tarot for a couple of reasons. One, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute here before we do our activity. It's too much to teach you in a short period of time. And two, as a former English teacher and a person who taught people how to learning skills, I don't think that you should memorize tarot to learn tarot. I think that that is a real good way to get distracted with tarot and not get the beautiful insight that tarot has for you. Let me read you a little blurb here so you can see kind of where I'm coming from. And this is in our Holistic Witchery program. When we talk about tarot, we can use tarot as a tool for introspection, for reflection. We're going to do those things today with one card. I'm going to give you a card. We're going to do it together. But we can also talk about divination tools. We can talk about tarot, oracle cards, runes, using a pendulum. Divination tools are that a tool to help you maybe look at a situation from a different perspective, to ask yourself deeper questions than you would when you're just sitting by yourself or looking in the mirror, wondering why you failed at the most recent thing you failed at on this day. All right, here's the blurb for you. We have not been raised to trust ourselves. There's a reason that our model, when we teach an expansion thought work model, is a spiral and not a circle, because it's an ongoing process that will grow you over time. Divination, now divination is our tools like tarot, like oracle cards, is a beautiful way to support yourself in that growth and act as a bridge between who you are now and the confident, intuitive you that is emerging. Divination tools allow us to zoom out and get a 30,000-foot view of our lives. It is challenging to separate our feelings and emotions from the truth of a situation and observe our lives from a neutral perspective. That is so hard it's hard for me too. It's so hard for me to do. Common divination tools and techniques act as scaffolding and support us in doing that very thing. Not only will the act of divination strengthen your trust muscle, it's a deliberate practice in releasing perfectionism. How many of us need to do that? There are no right answers in divination, and there's no right way to do it. But that's what can make it feel so hard to do. The fact that there are no right answers and there is no right way to do it. And that can make it feel really hard for us. That comes back to that witch wound and the self-trust, because we don't want to be seen as failures in the court of public opinion. We don't want to. How many, if there's probably somebody here watching right now, there's hundreds of people here. Somebody here has probably thought about posting a tarot card reading or something on social media. Like maybe you've thought, I love this. Maybe I could do this. And you didn't, because you were afraid of what somebody else would say, or you were afraid that maybe the interpretation wasn't right and somebody would see it and tell you, or they would judge you for doing it, which is a whole other thing. That's that part. We're afraid of being seen as failures, being seen as other, really just being on the radar of other people in the court of public opinion, which is today social media, right? It's no longer the gathering grounds where we get put up on stage and our perceived sins are read out to everybody who's watching. Like in the hundreds of years ago witch trials. Today it's social media. Nobody wants to be hung out on the court of public opinion that is social media. But that is what makes it so hard, because there is no right answer and there is no right way. So a tarot deck, if you are not familiar, real super quick, it is a linear, tells a linear story, which is what makes tarot different than oracle cards. There are 22 major arcana cards. The major arcana cards, they start with the Fool, and it tells the story of the Fool's journey. So you can line the cards up. There are 22. They are numbered 0 through 21. You can line them up and tell the tale of the major themes through an experience, portions of a lifetime that we can all relate to. They are long-standing big themes for us. That is the major arcana. Now there's also the minor arcana, which is comprised of 4 different pieces: the suit of pentacles, the suit of swords, the suit of wands, and the suit of cups. Now these suits align with the elements. We're actually going to talk about the elements tomorrow, so we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But these 4 suits, they take these big themes and sort of distill them down to different ways of experiencing life's themes, the things that we all encounter, making choices, having conflict. And through the different suits, we can almost see a different perspective on the themes, where the Earth suit, Pentacles, is slow and steady. We're talking a lot about staying the course, keep doing the work. The growth comes over time. Where with the suit of, and that's Earth, right? It's slow, just like Earth is slow to reawaken. It's slow to grow a tree. The suit of swords is a different example. That is the air suit. And that suit has a lot of jarring sort of imagery to it, kind of jarring messages. And we can think of air and how quick that can come over us. And a gust of wind out of nowhere can knock everything over on a picnic table, right? And just like your thoughts, air is your thoughts. They can be jarring, they can come out of nowhere. So we have similarities between the different suits, but they are all very specific to their element. A way to work on understanding tarot, if you are just beginning to work with it, would be to line up the cards in order, the major arcana in order, 0 through 21, and look through the pictures. If you have a guidebook, you could flip through that. My way of suggesting that you would learn the cards would always be trying to connect to them yourself first. And I don't mean connect by like holding them and connecting. I mean, look at the imagery and try to tell a story of what you're seeing. What does this look like to you? Does it look like there's happiness, sadness? Does it look like someone's frustrated or like they're having a dream? Just what does it look like for you? And then look at the book secondarily. And then you can take your minor arcana cards and lay those out in order and do a similar exercise, but look at all of the aces, all of the twos, all of the threes. What's the same between them? What's different? And that can really help you to start to notice the nuances in the imagery, but also your reaction to the different suits. How do you feel when you look at certain cards? What does the story bring up in you? So while tarot does have meanings, there are specified meanings to the card, to the different cards. It's important to recognize that the system of tarot as we use it today was not specifically written exactly with the meanings that we use. So it was developed over time. The system of tarot we use today, there's different ideas about the origin of tarot, but the images did come from some of them, rather not all of them. Some of them came from a card game. They were later expanded upon. The meanings as they are today, those were even added to over time. So there really truly is no specific right way. There is your way. And there's tons of guidance out there. You can read books about tarot. You can read the guidebook that comes with it. We feature a tarot card in our Sunday newsletter every week. There's no end of resources. But when you're practicing self trust and you want to use spiritual tools to strengthen your relationship with yourself, to come back into your power, then you want to look at the cards and start to create the story for you. What does it mean to me when I look at this card? A great example for me, before I start these events, I always pull cards and I just think, what do we all need? And I pulled a 3 of swords on Monday morning, but I was using, and I don't think I have it with me right next to me, so I can't find it for you, but a card deck that has these cute little like Grim Reapers and skeletons. And the 3 of swords is a skeleton that's being cut like in 3 pieces. So at the neck and then kind of at the hip level, and it's just like falling sideways each way. And there's the swords coming through it, right? And the typical 3 of swords is a heart with 3 swords in it. And it's known as like the heartbreak card, loss, love loss, that kind of generalization. But as soon as I saw that 3 of swords from this specific deck, instantly my head thought fragmented. We as women are so fragmented. We are being this person for this person for this person. We're over here trying to be witchy women with our spiritual practices. And it feels like another thing we have to do and another thing we're failing at because there's no time to do it all. No one will leave us alone. Distractions everywhere. What is even happening in the world? And we are so fragmented. And I didn't get that message because I have the meanings of the cards memorized. I got that message because I looked at the card. My brain said, women are fragmented. And then I said, women are fragmented. And that is how tarot can help us to develop self trust. It can help us to release perfectionism, to gain an eagle eye view on our own stories, and practice trusting the thoughts, the feelings in our body, the emotions that we experience to trust these inner workings so that we can then trust ourselves in our outer world. All right. I am going to share the screen again and we're going to do our activity. So if you have a pen and paper or don't, pen and paper is going to be helpful for this. I'm going to put a card on the screen and y'all are going to do 3 different interpretation. I guess that's not really the right word. 3 different exercises here to do it right now. You don't get out of here today without reading a tarot card. All right. So on the card on the screen is the moon tarot card. We're going to do 3 things. Thing number 1. Look at this card. Just look at it. And if you have a pen, I would like you to jot down a message that you could take for yourself looking at this card. You don't need to know what it means. I just gave an example. I looked at this card the other day. I heard fragmented. That has nothing to do with the traditional meaning, nothing at all. So look at this card. What is a message? As if the card was speaking to you. What's a message for you? You can share it in the chat or just write it down yourself. What is a message for you? All right. Once you have your message, and again, you can't there's no wrong, right? Like whatever you think or write down in this moment, that's just it. That's it. That is it. Now you're going to put on a different kind of thinking cap here. A different kind of thinking cap. If this card was a sentient being, what question would this card ask you? This is a stretch. That's a stretch. This is a stretch activity. We're stretching you out here. Like, I don't know, Stretch Armstrong. Gumby. Did Gumby stretch? Anyway, my ADHD is kicking in. What's a question this card would ask you? So we have a message. What's a question this card would ask you? I'll share mine too after we go through. Right here with one card, we are doing 3 different exercises. How you can intuitively read tarot today. You can leave here today if you have tarot cards. Pick one, and you can do this with any card you pick. This is actually my favorite way presently. I've been reading tarot for like 23 years. This is my present favorite way, is to pull the card and then ask myself a question, or let the card ask me a question. All right. The third thing for you, ask yourself, look at this card. This is can be a tricky one too. Ask the question, who am I today? And this card is the tool you're going to use to answer that question. So an example, I gave the example of my fragmented 3 of Swords. If I pulled that card and said, who am I today? I might say to myself, I am a person who feels like I'm falling apart. Or I might say, maybe I'm a person who best be aware of tending to myself before I fall apart, right? Maybe I'm a person holding it together today. I don't know. But who are you today using this card? All right. I'll give you my 3 that I wrote down because I did do this right before we started. So for my message, for me, this is not right for everybody, right? This is not the right answer. Let's be clear about that. This is not the right answer. This is what I chose for me. For my message, I wrote down, pay attention to what you can't see. Like what's simmering beneath what I can see. Pay attention to what you can't see. For my question, I wrote down, what would it feel like to emerge? What would it feel like to emerge? I'm obviously very focused on that lobster thing. Is that a crayfish or I'm in New England? It's a lobster. All right. And then for who am I wrote down, I am the invitation. I am the invitation. The invitation to what? I'm uncertain. But that's what I thought. It was a thing that came into my head. I am the invitation. I think I looked at the moon and like the moon is the invitation for everything to kind of come out, right? And then I thought, I am the invitation. That's who I am. So those are what I wrote down. That is what I wrote down. Notice, if you will, in the chat, how many different ideas there are. What is wonderful about tarot and creating a practice where you use tarot as a tool in your life is that it will be specific to you. Even though a lot of people might own the same card deck, millions, thousands of people, I don't know, could own the same card deck, read the same guidebook. It will always be a unique to you experience because nobody else is in your energy. Nobody else is in your mind. Nobody else is receiving the card through the lens that is you, through your unique perspective on any given day. With tarot too, the energy with which you are approaching a question or a scenario will impact how you think about it. So, if this was a day, let's imagine that I woke up today and won the lottery to the tune of like $1 billion. I would probably look at this card and think something different than, just me waking up in my life today. Like I had lunches to make, kids to get out the door, stuff going on. And I am I'm connected differently than if I just got this news that I won a $1 billion lotto something or other, right? So who you are, how you are at any given moment will impact the way you interpret the cards. And this really ties in the days that we've had so far with how do you want to feel? When you sit down to read your tarot cards or to use a tool like tarot or oracle cards, do a little self-check. How is it that I said I wanted to feel in this week, in this lunar cycle, in this year, and whatever the container is? Or how do I want to feel later today? Like get in the zone for your energy, who you are, where you are, how you are. Then think about your chakras. What are the stories I'm carrying into this time right now? I'm about to flip some cards, maybe for a new moon or full moon, or just because you want to, anytime at all. And what stories am I carrying in here? Am I carrying stories into this that are telling me that I didn't do well at something, or that are telling me that I'm mad at somebody, or somebody's mad at me, or, the world's going to hell in a handbasket? Or are you bringing in stories where you're like really just looking at all of the good and maybe you're neglecting to see the truth of a situation, right? Energy goes both ways, always. And so having that conversation with yourself as you sit down to work on your tarot readings and check in with yourself is so critical as well. I said this before, the signs that you are not in self-trust would be outsourcing all of your decisions, crowdsourcing your future, waiting for somebody else, whoever your group text chat is with, to validate your decisions, to tell you that they're good choices. That's what they would do. Procrastinating, letting yourself get really like overwhelmed, fear of perfection, fear of or lack of perfection, rather, not being perfect, fear of that, fear of failure, fear of judgment. Those are all signs we are not in self-trust. And using tarot can help you to practice being in self-trust. It can help you practice being in self-trust. You, my friend, have to believe that you are a well of wisdom. This well is regenerative, it is replenishable, just like the cycles of the earth, just like the cycle of the moon, right? It is regenerative, it is replenishable. Resources are generally replenishable. Your time is not. Let's not hesitate and hold back on self trust and using something like tarot as a tool to help you practice self trust, to help you practice releasing perfectionism and getting it right. All right. I believe that you are full of wisdom and I believe you are very trustworthy. You have to believe that for yourself. All right. Today, I have your spell of the day. Remember, if you put the spell of the day on the content page where we have PDFs for you, there's a cord cutting meditation that we gave you on there, replays are on there. When you put in the spell of the day for 4 days, Monday through Thursday, we will email you a pretty nifty PDF chakra journal on Friday. You have the week to fill it in. Don't worry if you didn't do it Monday, Tuesday. You can go grab the spell of the day from those videos and get it in. Spelling does not count. All right, the spell of the day for today, Wednesday. I trust myself. I trust myself. Easy as that. Write it down in the spell of the day. Write it right now. I trust myself. That will be available shortly when we have the replay up for you. So jot it down, take a screenshot of everyone putting it in the comments. I trust myself. And say that out. Look in the mirror later and say that out loud too. I trust myself. Talk to yourself eye to eye in the mirror. Pep talk. No one can give you a pep talk like you can. All right, y'all. Well, that is it for today's session. That is it for today's session. We've done the moon, we've done the chakras, we've done tarot. Remember, my objective for you is not to memorize anything. It's to walk away from here and feel a fire in your belly and an excitement about who you are, the potential for who you are, and the just light within you to take up space and be the witchy woman that you see in your mind to be it in your life. That's what I want for you, not to memorize things. All right. I will see you tomorrow at the same time for talking about the elements and specifically the element of air tomorrow as we move into the spring season. I hope y'all have a really great Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.